This is Excel 2016 GMetrix Practice Test 3. I'll be taking a look at how to do this item. It says to create a stacked area chart that shows the registration trend from January to December for football, baseball, and basketball. Position the chart to the right of the table and change the color. In order to make this happen, we're going to select the month of March. Okay, always select your labels, and football, baseball, and basketball is what it asks us to do. It talks about a stacked area chart, so we're going to go to Insert. We're going to go to our recommended charts. Looking for the stacked area chart. Stacked area. Position the chart to the right of the table. And change the color to monochromic palette 4. On chart design, we're going to change the color to monochromic palette 4. And mark as complete. Add the chart title New Sports to the pie chart on the registration revenue worksheet. So registration revenue, so there must be a pie chart on here, so I'm going to scroll down to find the pie chart. Now it asks me to add the chart title, so we're going to click on the chart title. I'm going to select the chart title and type in New Sports. Clicking away from it to lock that in place. I mark as complete. Move on. Move the pie chart New Sports from the registration revenue worksheet and place it as an object in the charts worksheet. Notice the charts worksheet already exists, so they want me to move it to that existing sheet. I'm going to use the Move Chart button. I'm going to have it as an object in the charts worksheet. I click OK, and that chart has now been moved to here. I mark as complete. Next task. Add alt text to New Sports to the pie chart containing soccer, tennis, and volleyball. So on the Charts tab, it is not established sports, but you got to scroll down to find New Sports. Make sure you have the right chart. And they want me to add alt text to this chart. So I'm going to right click on the chart. I'm going to edit alt text and type in New Sports. Now I do want to point out that if you have a different version of Excel, there are two different versions, you might have to right click on the chart and choose Format Chart Area, and then you would go in the box that opens up, just demonstrating what it might look like, Format Chart Area, and clicking on this button right here. If you see alt text here, that would be where you could type in your alternative text, would be the other way to do this. Again, it depends on what version of Excel you happen to be using. Mark as complete. Grade project. And continue. Task 1. Remove all duplicate records from the food inventory worksheet. So I go to the food inventory worksheet, I click anywhere in the data area, and it wants me to remove all duplicates. Duplicates is on the data tab. I find the button that says remove duplicates. In this instruction, it doesn't tell me to limit the duplicates, so I keep everything checked. I click OK. Mark as complete. Next task. On the food inventory worksheet, enter a function in cell G1. So I'm on the food inventory sheet. I go to cell G1. Enter a function in G1 that counts, here's a keyword, counts the number of food items. So as I look at food items, I see that they are text functions, or excuse me, they are text. So that means if I want to count these items, I'm going to use a function called count_a. So I go to my insert function button, I type in count_a, and now I will select the items in the food item column. So I did count_a, I selected the food items. Count_a is another way of saying count anything, and that calculates how many food items there are. I mark as complete, go to the next item. On the revenue sheet, enter a formula into J10. That uses a function to calculate the average revenue from the January column. So they want me to calculate the average from January. So for this, I'm going to go to my AutoSum button, choose the average, and then I'm going to select the numbers in the January column. I press enter, and my calculation is there. Mark is complete. Next task. On the revenue worksheet, in cell C5 to C7, so I'm going to click on C5, insert the food truck image from the GMetrix templates folder, size the image to 1 inch. So to insert a picture, I go to insert, I look for the picture button, I don't see it, it's part of illustrations. Insert picture. I'm going to navigate to Documents, GMetrix Templates, and the food truck image. I've already been brought to the picture format, so I'm going to set the width to 1 inch, making sure that you're setting the width and not the height. I mark as complete, and I grade the project. Project number 3. Remove all hidden properties and personal information from the workbook. I go to File, Info, check for issues. I'm going to inspect the document. I always leave all the items checked and choose Inspect. There are document properties and personal information, so I am going to remove them. I click Close, mark as complete, next task. In the crane production worksheet, apply the title style to cell A1. So I select A1, I go to my cell styles, I look for the title style, and I select it. Mark as complete, next task. In the grain production worksheet, modify the table style to remove the shading that appears on every other row. I click in the table, I go to the table design toolbar, and I uncheck banded rows, as that's what produces the every other row shading. I mark as complete. Next task. In the grain production worksheet, change the sort order of the first table to alphabetize the countries from A to Z. So I click anywhere in the table. You can either go to Data or Home. I could click one of these buttons here, but I want to confirm that I'm doing it exactly the way the instructions say, so I'm going to go to Sort. It says change the sort order to alphabetize the countries. So it is saying countries from A to Z. I click OK. I mark as complete. Next task. Enter a formula in cell E4 that calculates the total production of barley and updates the results even if the row order is changed. So I want to calculate the production. So the only numbers that can be calculated is metric tons, but I only want to calculate it if it is barley. Okay, it says total production, so that makes this a SUMIF. So I go to my insert function, I type in SUMIF. I always recommend that you do the criteria first. The criteria is what I'm looking for, and in this case I'm looking for barley. Next is the range. The range is where I find the word barley. That's going to be the product column, so I'm going to select this entire product column. Sum range is what I'm actually adding up, and the only thing that can be added in this is metric tons, so I select the metric tons column. I click OK, mark is complete, and grade the project. All good. Moving on to project 5, or maybe project 4. I click on task 1. On the sales commission worksheet, configure target sales column. That's this column here. So the data still exists, but is not visible. So basically they're asking me to hide the column. So I select the entire column. I right click on the B and I choose to hide the column. I mark as complete. Next task. Modify the scaling of the sales commission worksheet so it fits on a single page when printed. For this, I want to go into my print preview, File, Print. It says to have the entire thing print on one page. So I'm going to change the scaling to fit sheet on one page. I'm going to hit the back button to return to my spreadsheet. Mark as complete. Next task. Remove the cell containing the data projected sales in the sales commission worksheet. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to look down my spreadsheet till I find the words projected sales. It's a relatively small spreadsheet. There I see projected sales. It wants me to remove the cell. So I'm going to go up to my clear button. Okay, removing the cell means to clear all. So everything is gone from there. Mark is complete. Next task. In the sales commission worksheet, use an automatic formatting method to apply orange gradient fill data bars to the total sales column that changes the cell formatting whenever the cell values change. So I look for the column in question, total sales. I'm going to select the numbers in that column. The word data bars tells me that this is a conditional formatting question. So I go to conditional formatting, I go to data bars, I'm going to be in the gradient, and I'm looking for the orange data bars. Mark is complete. Next task. In the sales commission worksheet, insert a formula in cell G4 that calculates in G4 that references the data in the total sales column and the commission rate in cell J3 to calculate the values of the commission column. Copy the formula to all of the cells in the commission column. This is one that I typically tell my students to skip, and the reason is because this is using what's called a mixed address, which is a little more challenging than what you're going to see on the certification test. But here's how this one would be done. We're going to do a calculation here. So we're going to start by doing the equal sign. References the data in total sales, so I'm going to click on total sales. And calculates the commission. So I'm going to multiply. I'm going to multiply by 3%. So I click on the 3%. Now here's where things get a little bit more challenging. We're going to be copying from one row to the next. So I want things to change from one row to the next. I'm going to press my F4 key until I see the $sign next to the 3, but not the J. Okay? I press the Enter key. It copies the formula down. Mark is complete. Next task, or actually grade project. Project 5. Change the margin of the summary worksheet. Margins are on the page layout tab. I go to margins, come down to custom margins. Wants me to do 0.75 on the top, bottom, left, and right. 0.75 top, bottom, left. I'm going to have to type in the 5 here. I'm going to type in here. And 0.5 for header and footer. Footer, I need to change to 0.5. Header, I need to change to 0.5. The last thing it says is to center the worksheet horizontally. So I'm going to choose the center option here so that my measurements are all correct. Centering, I click OK. Mark is complete. Next task. Hide the rental revenue worksheet so it still exists in the workbook, but the tab is not available. My rental revenue is here. They wish me to hide it. That's what they're talking about. So I right click, I choose hide. It goes away, but still is available. Mark is complete. Next task. Save the summary sheet to the GMetrix templates folder as a PDF file with the name summary. With the summary sheet selected, I go to File, I go to Save As, I browse, making sure that I'm at GMetrix templates, changing the type to PDF, and then finally changing the name to summary. I click Save. It is possible you will get an Acrobat file that opens up. I close that. I mark as complete, and I go to my next task. Outline both the columns and rows of the table on the summary worksheet. So I click on Summary, I click in the data, I go to the data, There's an option that talks about grouping and ungrouping. I'm going to click the drop down and I want to auto outline. That will automatically outline both columns and rows of the spreadsheet. I mark as complete. I click Next Task. Sort Farmers Market Worksheet. So I click on Farmers Market. Sort it alphabetically from A to Z. So I'm going to click anywhere in the data. I'm going to go to my Sort button. First by location. Then by product. And then by season. So I've added 2 items, so I'm sorting by 3 different things. Now notice that season says spring, summer, fall. Right now this is sorting A to Z. Spring, summer, fall is actually a custom list that I need to create. So I click here and type in spring, comma, summer, comma, fall. I add this as a custom list. I click OK. That now appears as my sort option. I click OK. I now have my sorting. Mark is complete. Next task. Actually grade project. All good, so I continue. Project 6. On the fundraiser worksheet, delete row 4 from the first table only. Notice row 4 is all blank data. So I go and I right click inside of row 4. I choose delete and I'm deleting the table row. Mark is complete. Next task. Display all the formulas on the cookie sheet sales. I click on cookie sales. I go to formulas. I click on show formulas. Mark is complete. Next task. Configure the fundraiser sheet to display 1 through 3 on every page that is printed. The key word here is printed. If it's printed, it's a page layout option. We're going to go to print titles. Always make sure that when you get into print titles that you choose the print titles option. In this case, it's rows to repeat, and I'm going to select rows 1 through 3. I click OK. Mark is complete. Next task. Apply the orange accent 2 fill color and white background 1 font color and apply a bold format to the cell ranges A2 to B2 of cookie sales. So I go to cookie sales, I select A2 and B2, I apply the fill color of orange accent 2, that's the fill color. They want me to change the font color to white background 1, and they want me to apply bold to these items as well. Mark is complete. Next task. On our fundraiser worksheet, configure the table to display only the records of the Blazing Broncos. Now this one's a little more challenging than anything I've actually seen on the certification test, because you've got to figure out that the Blazing Broncos up here in blue, and that is shown over here in this legend type thing. So Blazing Broncos is blue. So what I want to do is I only want to show the items over here on this table that appear in blue. So the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to go to filter by color, and that's going to be either under first name or last name. I don't think it matters. I'm going to go to first name, filter by color, and I'm going to pick that blue color. That displays only the items that are in blue, which is the Blazing Broncos. I mark as complete, and I grade project. Continue. Color the tab Q1 Sales to green. I right-click Q1 Sales, tab color. Green is a standard color, so I come down and I look for the standard color green. Mark is complete. Next task. Rename Sheet 2, so I double-click Sheet 2 and I type in Suppliers. Pressing Enter. Mark is complete. Insert a page 1 of question mark page numbering in the header of the Q1 Sales. So I click back to Q1 Sales. I go into my header, Insert, Text, Header and Footer. I go into my pre-built headers, page 1 of question mark. I always close out of my header. I click anywhere outside the spreadsheet. I click back to normal view. Mark is complete. Next task. Copy the data from range A8 to E13 on the Q1 Sales. So I'm going to select from A8 to E13. Copy the data and transpose it to the cell range beginning A8 on the seedling sales. Be careful to make sure that you choose seedling sales, not seedling sales chart. Okay, I'm going to go to cell A8. I go up to my paste drop down and I find my transpose button. Mark is complete. Next task. Remove the table formatting from the small tree sales. So I click on small tree sales. I click anywhere in the table. It says remove table formatting, which means I need to go into table design, and I'm looking for some way to convert to range. Mark is complete. On the small tree sales worksheet, insert a formula into F20. That uses a built-in Excel function to return the value of the smallest value in the total column. Well, smallest value means min, so I'm going to come up and use the min function. And now I need to make sure that it's looking at the total column, which it is. I press enter. I mark as complete. Apply the quick analysis tool to the data on the Q1 sales worksheet to create a clustered column chart displaying sales for only Douglas fir seedlings, giant sequoia seedlings, and KMX seedling trees for each month. I always select the labels at the top, so that's going to be tree description down to March, okay, as well as the data. So they wanted Douglas fir, giant sequoia, and KMX. So with those items selected, the quick analysis tool is over here. It wants me to create a chart. Wants me to create a clustered column chart. This is my first clustered column. It says to apply chart style 14. So here's my chart styles. I know 14 is one of the last numbers. It says monochromatic palette 7. That's a color scheme. Monochromatic palette 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That would be this one. And a quick layout of 2. Place the chart in the upper left corner of the seedling chart worksheet. Okay, so they want me to move this to another sheet. So I'm going to move the chart to the seedling sales chart sheet. Place the chart in the upper left corner. So I position it accordingly. I mark as complete and I grade the project. I click continue, and that is how you do practice 3.